The indomitable nature of the human spirit is not something to take lightly. Why do we try so hard to keep pushing forward? Is it merely just to survive? Or is there something deeper inside of us that wants to slap the universe, or God for that matter, in the face and tell him we will not go quietly? In this video, we are going to look at a movie that represents the spirit of man and how, when faced with insurmountable odds, some of us actually become our best selves. The Edge is one of my favorite movies, and not because it is some great piece of cinema or some Oscar-winning performance. No, it is a simple movie with phenomenal actors, character introspection, and a plotline that is as simple as they come. Battle the elements, man versus nature. Will you survive or just bitch out? We are going to look at some of the great words of its lead character, Charles Morse, played by the immortal Anthony Hopkins. These are words every man should be living by, and has honestly given me some strength in times where I wanted to throw in the towel. The Edge portrays the spirit of man as something forged not in comfort, but in adversity. Stripped of wealth, status, and control in the Alaskan wilderness, Charles Morse survives not because he is the strongest, but because he refuses to surrender mentally. The film suggests that the true measure of a man lies in resilience, discipline, and the will to act when fear would paralyze others. Through his calm intelligence and relentless determination, the story argues that human greatness is not about dominance, but endurance. In the face of nature's indifference and betrayal from another man, Morse embodies the idea that the human spirit thrives when it chooses courage over despair and purpose over panic. An incredibly wealthy man, going to Alaska with his model wife Mickey for a holiday. He is uptight, highly intelligent, and out of his comfort zone. You can tell he is merely doing this to simp for his gorgeous younger wife. He's accompanied by a few hangers-on. Friends and photographers, including Robert Greene, also called Bob, who outwardly shows the hand of friendship with Charles, but you can tell he covets what he has in all ways. I love this movie because it is so simple and shows what was needed for an endearing movie back then, was great characters, a simple plot, and charm. This formula seems to have been miffed in today's version of storytelling, for the most part anyways. Charles finds himself on a tiny plane, flying over the Alaskan mountain range, and in a scene of brilliant timing, he asks Bob, "So, how are you planning to kill me?" Then suddenly a massive bird strike occurs, and their picturesque vacation turns into a fight for survival. It is not only the cold they are fighting against, but nature itself. This movie is truly man versus wild, but also man versus himself. Charles finds himself stranded in the Alaskan wilderness with Bob, and the one black guy, Steven, whom we all know dies first. Sorry, it's true. The 90s loved doing this. Besides fighting hypothermia and all the usual culprits, the story takes a visceral turn when they find themselves being stalked by a massive man-eating grizzly bear. Charles is a very educated man. He loves to read and has all this pent-up knowledge, but no practical use for it. For example, he says, "You know, you can season meat with gunpowder." Incredibly useless in the modern world, but that is the thing about knowledge. No matter what it is, filling your brain with as much as possible means your toolbox will never be empty. And in any situation, you can draw upon a plethora of useful information. Charles has never stress-tested his skills and finds himself trying to put all his wits to use, as his friends rely on his calm, intelligent demeanor to see them through. After Steven is the first to be killed by this grizzly bear, Charles and Bob find themselves running, hiding, doing anything and everything they can to outwit this bear. But to no avail, the bear is set to feast on their flesh. This then leads to one of the greatest lines ever. This is a quote I live my life by, and one that every man of ambition should chant once a day. What one man can do, another can do. Simple, yet mighty. Charles is trying to pump the bewildered Bob up, because he is tired of running from the bear, knowing it will either be them or him. They must make a stand. They must kill the bear, And indeed, Charles makes Bob say over and over again, "I'm going to kill the bear." He makes him chant it. This quote is so important for anyone trying to reach a higher place in this life. More than ever, in 2026, we find ourselves overly saturated at every turn, where everyone wants fame, but not everyone has what it takes to reach that level. People think they can take the easy way out and pursue their passions so they do not have to work for a living. They are dead wrong. In today's world, if you want to be a creator, whether it be music, art, YouTube, whatever, you have to be a machine. Staunch in dedication, mental resilience, fortitude, creativity, and the willpower to keep going for years in the face of getting nowhere. I feel passion for this because it is what I am living. One day soon I will share the other side of the coin, my music channel, because I know that anyone who has subscribed to this channel right now, you are like-minded family. You are people I want to know, because you are probably artists yourself, showing that we want something deeper, a conversation and community based around these things. So, as you probably already know, they do indeed kill the bear. Using again a bit of knowledge Charles drew upon from Native Americans, the gravity dead fall, using the bear's own weight against him in one of the greatest scenes in movies. Charles lures the bear into a kill zone and lets it rear up, falling down on a perfectly placed spear. This segues into our next quote, spoken by Charles, which is, "Most people lost in the woods, they die of shame." This quote speaks to one thing above all, confidence. I try to always tie the words of great characters into our lives and what can motivate us to reach our goals. Most people want the world, but are not willing to put the work in to get it. Or they will work for a short period of time, and when they are not seeing results, they will quit. I cannot blame them though. Who wants to waste precious time in life? But at the same time, you must pass the test to be worthy of achieving such goals. Charles and Bob have now leveled up and found that confidence. They now know they are capable of taking on Mother Nature, and in an epic scene, they chow down on the bear's meat, don its warm pelt, and start their journey, trying to escape the wilderness in one piece. How are they able to do this? How is man able to do any of the amazing things we have done on this planet? Well, Charles spoke on that as well. He said, "Why is the rabbit unafraid? Because he's smarter than the panther." This shows that man has been able to tame this wild world because our wits, not our strength. So that is why I never lead with my physical strength anymore. Using your wits and your mind to solve problems is truly man's greatest achievement. We are extremely vulnerable prey, easy to kill creatures who would not stand a chance against most creatures, if not for our intelligence and our will to tame the world around us. I think men, most of all, need to remember this. Stop trying to lead with testosterone, fighting the world over everything, and use the mind to be cunning, intrepid, and intelligent. So we can see the will to act not only saves lives, but also gives you the confidence to take on anything in life. If you are pursuing a goal, but getting nowhere with it, you know you have something, or love doing it, but are not getting the monetary end yet. This is the time to look at it as Charles Morse does. You could quit, die of shame, choose an action. But I think in today's world, many people forget the meaning of the word passion. Everyone is doing something for other people, or other means, fame, fortune, other people's approval. How about your own approval? Isn't that the most difficult to attain self-love and worthiness? The will to keep going comes from yourself. We all must remember, having that spirit to never give up in the face of toughest odds comes from the place of knowing you are doing this for yourself first, and would be doing it for free until you are falling off the chair. When you remember this is for you, damn the results, choosing your happiness first, then it seems that your action then follows. Your drive kicks in, and everything else will fall into place, because shame is the enemy of action. This story now becomes less about man versus nature, and now man versus himself, or more aptly, man versus man. Charles and Bob find a small hunting cabin, which they strip apart for usable materials, alcohol and shotgun included. Charles finds proof that Bob has been having an affair with his wife Mickey. We all know where this leads. Bob thinks he can kill two birds with one stone. He can kill Charles, nobody would know. He could have Mickey, and they would be rich together. So Bob's demons come out to play when he tells Charles to turn around so he can shoot him in the back like a coward. Charles always has a plan though, and keeps backing Bob up until Bob steps into a deadfall pit and mangles his leg badly. Any other man would have left Bob's conniving ass to die, but Charles is a man of integrity and frame. He brings Bob back into the cabin and starts trying to patch him up. They find a worn canoe and take it down the river, where Bob eventually succumbs to his injuries in a very emotional, true conscious scene. Bob says, "I'm dying, and I never did a goddamn thing." This line hits home, because I think most of us would think this at the moment of death. What have we done with this short life? Anything of consciousness? Anything worth remembering in the next life? They say the most honest moment in a man's life is that moment where he draws his last breath. And no scene better shows this than when Bob dies. And the look on his face is one of remorse and regret for what he tried to do to Charles in all ways. This is why I am doing this, because I wanted to leave something behind. I wanted to leave my thoughts, my opinions, and my sentiments through this forum and through my music, so that I do not end up regretting like Bob did. I think many men feel this way in 2026, but most are content to sit on their asses. And if that is how you find happiness, then I'm truly envious, because it is the simple nature of things where the most happiness is derived from. Ambition, money, success can all seem like a giant albatross around your neck, whereas small-town living, simple off-the-grid living, can seem like heaven, and maybe is how humans are supposed to live. But we cannot close Pandora's box at this point. With everything we have at our fingertips, it seems we are dumber than we have ever been, and more unhappy than ever. How the hell does that make sense? Maybe we are chasing the wrong things now, leaving us unfulfilled with a perpetual hole in our hearts. Charles eventually signals for rescue, and in a very triumphantly morose ending, he gives a press conference. A reporter asks what happened to his friends, and Charles says, "They died saving my life." This, along with the theme music, drew a tear out of me, like movies used to be able to do. The humble nature of a very wealthy man, to be able to let his ego fall and let his friends, even the one who tried to kill him, take the credit for his eventual survival. Simply brilliant. These are the traits I try to live by now. The characteristics in a man we should all strive for. Be the most confident man in the room. Keep your frame. Be able to conquer the world, but also be the most humble man, able to put his ego aside and give the shine to someone else. I believe when we can do this, we truly have reached that next step of evolution, because as a man, it goes against everything we are. And that is why agitation breeds evolution. Many men today seem to be confused about this, because they are listening to these so-called gurus out there trying to sell courses. The alpha male is truly the most quiet one in the room, until it is time to be bold. He listens to everyone and keeps his sturdy emotional frame. But most of all, he is humble. He knows the tables can turn, and he could be on the bottom, being stepped on by life's extra large foot. So, this is why The Edge, with its simple story and amazing examples for how men should navigate their world, is one of my favorite inspirational quote movies. Charles said, "Never feel sorry for yourself," and he is right. This is just a waste of time. Self-pity only leads to self-doubt. But as long as the obstacles in your life lead to self-reflection, we can learn and grow. Maybe we can be like Charles, be the hero of the story, but give the credit to the departed, evolving in the process. I was going to end the video there, but I just had to tell this side story. Anthony Hopkins ended up speaking at my graduation as a guest speaker because he knew one of the parents or something. I had the honor of shaking his hand, and it was pure coincidence that I had just watched a rerun of The Edge on TBS or something. I told him I loved him in The Edge, and he looked at me like he wanted to eat my liver with a nice Chianti and fava beans. See why I did this video now?